Welcome to Royal Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings, and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wildin' in the stand. For laid-back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gon' be our year. We're here, drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring, yeah.
What's up, Kings fans, and welcome back to another Royal Rebounds Podcast, live with Calvin and Barry. Tonight, we are breaking down the Sacramento Kings 108-89 loss to the Toronto Raptors, making them 6-10 on the season, and they're 1-8? One in their last 8 games? That's crazy, Calvin.
It's rough. Season low in points. Couldn't hit the backside of a barn. Couldn't throw a grape in the ocean tonight. Pascal Siakam. How many people want to trade for Pascal Siakam after this game?
Right. So the Toronto Raptors won by 29 points in this game, which is 2 more points than the Kings scored in any quarter in this game, which is just crazy to me. Crazy. If it's your first time to the channel, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button to join the Royal family with Calvin and I. Make sure you guys hit that like button down below if you're a Kings fan. We put out fresh Kings content almost daily. We do a live after pretty much every single game. We have a TV show called The Royal Report. It's an ESPN-style sports talk show where we talk just about your Sacramento Kings, and that debuts every Friday during the season. So if you guys haven't seen it yet, make sure you check out today's episode. All right, Cal. So, do you even want to look at the box score tonight, or
Toronto's box score or Sacramento's box score?
Let's dive in there. Let's dive in there and take a look.
So the most impressive things from the box score are going to be in the free throw category, even though the team only shot 64% from the line. But Harrison Barnes was 8 of 8. De'Aaron Fox leads all Sacramento Kings scorers with 17 points, 3 assists, 8 of 13 from the field. Buddy Hield, 10 points off the bench, 3 of 12 from 3, and 3 of 13 overall. Harrison Barnes, 14 points, 3 of 9 from the field, 8 of 8 at the line. Did most of his work in the first quarter. Turned the ball over a lot tonight. He was much more aggressive, like we have been asking of him to do. But he only shot 2 threes. Metu, 10 points, and Tyrese Haliburton, 8 points, 4 rebounds, 3 steals, 0 assists. And Marvin Bagley plays 17 minutes.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know, that's when I looked at the box score, the very first thing that stood out to me was 0 assists tonight for Tyrese Haliburton. That's pretty incredible. I don't know if we're ever going to see another game from him like that. So that was very surprising. And then you look at him, 8 points tonight, 3 of 5, 2 of 4 from three-point line. He started out really hot.
He did.
I loved the aggressiveness. He had like 3 steals in the first quarter, was playing great, and then he just doesn't really go back in the game after that.
Disappeared, yeah. This is the, I believe, I would have to double-check myself for this, but I think this is the most players we've seen played in a game this year for the Kings. And yet Alex Len didn't play again.
Yeah. Pretty crazy there.
Even Robert Woodard got some run tonight.
Yeah. Marvin Bagley, 17 minutes for him tonight. Only 4 points, 1 of 4 from the field. I know they said Walton wanted to put him in there for rebounding and being big. 6 rebounds tonight, only 1 assist. But I was happy to see him out there. I saw some fans cheering, seeing him out on the court. I thought he brought a little bit of energy. He had a nice block there. I know he didn't get recorded with it, but it was kind of like second jump, go up, grab the ball from the offensive player. Crazy, crazy game, guys. I think it's time to hit the panic button. I really do. I really, really do.
Yeah, if we had one right here, we would hit it right now.
So I want to look real quick at the Raptor stats. It's going to be a quick dive here. 32 points tonight for Pascal Siakam. Spicy P was cooking it up. 10 of 12 from the field, 3 of 3 from three-point range, 9 of 10 from the free throw line.
Yep.
This dude played last night. The Raptors lost to the Jazz last night, who Kings play next tomorrow.
Right.
Siakam had 4 points last night against the Jazz, and he lit it up tonight.
He did.
He's finally coming back into his own. Now you guys know why Calvin and I really wanted to trade for him. You look at Scotty Barnes tonight, probably leading candidate for Rookie of the Year. Only 2 points.
Yep.
Only positive I saw from tonight's game. And then you look at a guy like Gary Trent Jr., 23 points tonight. He really lit it up.
Yeah.
And guess what, guys? Gary Trent Jr. was drafted by your Sacramento Kings. Steal of the draft.
Yep.
Second round, 37th pick overall. Dude's 22 years old and lighting up the Kings. Guess what year he was drafted, Cal?
20, the same year as Marvin Bagley.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's 2 picks they fucked up on. Same year. Thanks, Vlade. Thanks a lot. Man, that's crazy. Yes, we are panicking. Fred wants to trade for Ben. It seems like it's like a, what did I say in the last one? It's like a car crash that you see coming from a mile away and it's like still happening and you're like, no. And it seems to be on that way. It really does.
It does. At this point, it definitely couldn't make things worse, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. You look here at the team stats on this game. The Raptors completely dominated this game. I know the Kings started out really aggressive at the beginning of the game, 27 points in the first quarter. Then I think the Raptors went on like a 19-1 run and just completely ripped the Kings' hearts out. They got dominated in this game. I don't see really any category here. The Kings shot worse than them. They got out-rebounded tonight.
Points in the paint.
Less assists, same amount of steals, less blocks. You know, the Kings only had 15 turnovers as opposed to 18. I guess that's the best thing you could take away from this game. But 30 points, pretty much second quarter on, Raptors dominate.
They did. They really did. I mean, that's what happens. The first quarter was really kind of the whole game was frenetic. It was like a battle of free throws in the first quarter. I think Harrison Barnes finished the first quarter 1 for 2 from the field, but with 10 points. Yep. Because he was
free throws
aggressive trying to get to the rim. And like I said, points in the paint, the Kings actually did outscore Toronto 44-32. But Toronto was really hitting from outside today. So, and Pascal Siakam did whatever he wanted to pretty much against this team. But again, you know, this is another, we talk about points in the paint being a real key thing for the Kings. 44 points in the paint, it's okay. But when you shoot 9 of 37 from 3, that just takes opportunities away from you. I mean, if you're open, I get it. You got to shoot it. And we talked about it before. Buddy Hield is one of those guys, even if he's not open, he's going to shoot it. And with the way the Kings play right now, you have to be okay with that. Because
Buddy Hield shot 12 threes tonight.
12 threes.
And he scored 10 points.
Yes. But when you shoot 38% from the field, 24% from 3, and 64% at the free throw line, and the free throws were even. The Kings attempted one more free throw than the Raptors tonight, but they left a lot of points. I mean, I'm not saying even if they go 25 for 25, they still lose this game by a lot.
Oh yeah.
But you just,
they could go 50 for 50 and still lose this game.
You just handicap yourself so much when, and I understand a shooter's mentality, right? Even when you're not shooting well, if you are a good shooter, what does your coach always tell you? Don't worry about it, keep shooting. Don't worry about it, keep shooting.
Yep.
At some point, from 3 especially, if you're not hitting from 3, I forget who said this, but I think it's a famous coach or somebody like that. If you can get a good 20-foot shot, work for a 12-foot shot. If you can get a good 12-foot shot, work for a layup. Something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. But when you're really struggling shooting, that has to be the mentality. They're going to continue to give you those shots when you're struggling.
38% from the field, you can't even make layups at that point.
Yes, but 37 attempts from 3 when you only make 9, they could have scratched 10 of those attempts and tried to get a better shot.
I was happy to see Terence Davis play tonight.
I was too.
We didn't get to see him have much run lately.
Yeah.
I thought he played pretty good. He was aggressive tonight, only 15 minutes, 9 points. But I thought he played well.
He did. He shot better, and that's one of that seems to me to be the thing that is going to get him on the court.
Mm-hmm.
If he can come in early and knock down a couple shots, Luke Walton's going to say, okay, I'll let it ride with him. I'll let him play a little bit more.
Yep.
But if he comes out early and he throws up a ton of bricks and it's just not working, then not only is he going to not see the court in that game, but we've seen it have a trickle-down effect to where he's not even going to get in the game the next few. Like against Minnesota, I thought that would have been a great opportunity for him to get in and get some run. They were, again, struggling shooting.
Yep.
You've got a guy who's a streaky shooter. Why not throw him out there, see if he can hit a couple shots? I was surprised that he didn't play, but it was good to see him get in and at least hopefully build some confidence tonight.
What did you think about Davion Mitchell? 26 points, 2 of 10 from the field, 5 points.
26 minutes.
26 minutes, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, no steals, no blocks.
Yeah, he's really struggling offensively right now. He just, I don't know if he's trying to, maybe it's a De'Aaron Fox similar situation from earlier this year where he's just trying to force it a little bit too much. Davion in general doesn't strike me as the type of player to do that, where he's just going to keep forcing shots up.
Yeah.
And maybe that actually hurts him, because if he misses 2 or 3, something like that, he's going to start deferring because that's who he is. I think he knows well what his role on this team is. He's not the primary scorer out there, even when he comes in off the bench. Buddy Hield is the primary scorer.
Yep.
But 10 field goal attempts is actually pretty high for him, at least in the last few games. So he's just struggling shooting right now, like all the Kings did tonight, all the Kings men.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty wild. Going into tonight, the Sacramento Kings bench is ranked 8 in the league in scoring. The Raptors are ranked 29th. Yeah. And they just totally destroyed the Kings. You look at the bench here, they didn't even play that well tonight. It was the starters, Siakam.
Yeah.
And it was Van Vliet. It was Gary Trent Jr.
Exactly.
Nick Nurse wasn't taking any chances. The Kings started to make a little bit of a run back in the game, and he's like, nope, this is not happening. I don't care if we're up 20. I'm putting the starters back in, and we are going to shut the coffin on these guys.
Exactly. And that's why for a guy like Davion Mitchell individually, he's going to struggle to have more of an impact on this game because he's the guy that if one, we've seen it in the past, Donovan Mitchell is going off. Mm-hmm. Okay, Davion, go check him. Damian Lillard's going off, or CJ McCollum, go check him.
Yep.
Davion can't check Pascal Siakam.
He cannot.
He can try, and he would probably do an admirable job.
He can make it difficult.
But he can't go check him. And then if he can't go check Gary Trent Jr. after he pops a couple threes, and then Fred VanVleet scores.
Yep.
So
he can't guard everybody.
You can't guard everyone. It was a really unfortunate scenario tonight for the Kings.
Let's check in on our 4 guy, Metu. We've been advocates to start Metu.
Yeah.
Seemed to happen right as soon as we started screaming, start Metu.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I heard what the fans were screaming tonight, so we'll see about that. I know I made a prediction on that, and we're going to talk about Luke Walton here in a little bit. Yep. But 25 minutes tonight for Metu, 4 of 11 shooting, 10 points, 9 rebounds. He played a decent game for the Kings. He didn't shoot as well as I'd like him to, but he seemed to have – he did his job at the 4.
I agree. To me, I view him exactly the same way I view Davion Mitchell. He can come into a game, whether he's starting or not. The Kings don't have, or they should not rely on Metu to come out and score 20 points, right?
Yep.
That's not what he's there for. But when he's open, he needs to take the shot. Mm-hmm. He has not shot well at all this season. But I like the confidence in him, and the fact that he still is able to come in and impact the game in other ways. His rebounding has been great. He's given the Kings a real lob threat at the rim. They run some great sets for him to get him open going to the basket. And his defense in general, 1 steal and 1 block tonight. You know, the Kings win this game if they get the regular production, or I shouldn't say they win this game, but they're in a position to win this game if they get the regular production that they get from the guys that you would expect. Haliburton, Fox, Barnes, even Holmes. Only 6 points tonight.
And Metu got more shots than all those guys.
Yes, he did. He did.
Who's that on?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a convoluted thing, right? Because all of a sudden when you start getting blown out, if you're open, you chuck it.
Yeah.
You know, and you're looking for anybody at that point to provide you a spark. And you have to take good shots within the offense. And I thought Metu, for the most part, did. I really, aside from the like LeBron turnaround fadeaway, the airballed a couple nights ago, I really haven't seen him take that many bad shots. So he just, unfortunately, is not making them. And tonight, nobody was. So I can't put it on him. He brought the energy. He brought the effort. Rashawn Holmes, only 3 rebounds tonight.
Yeah.
3 rebounds.
Yeah, that's wild. This game was a complete surprise to me. I felt like the Kings were just returning from a road trip. I feel like after, Tristan Thompson's speech, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later too, that this Kings team needed to do something to prove to the world that they want Walton, that they're going to win games, that they're still going to be, a competitive team. No OG Anunoby tonight for the Raptors.
Been playing really well this season.
I thought that was positive for the Kings. They were debuting Calvin's new favorite jersey, the Sacktown City edition, which I'm a little angry about. The day they debuted, I went on Fanatics and I tried to buy Tyrese Haliburton, and they were already sold out for large. I don't know who wears an extra small, but if you wear extra small, like you have no problem ever getting jerseys. You could wait till it goes on sale probably too. But yeah, I thought that this was a must-win game for the Kings, and I think some of the players had mentioned that pretty much every game is a must-win game at this point.
We got to be honest now,
especially when you're looking at this upcoming schedule.
Yes,
this Kings team is in a very, very tough position. So that brings me on to our next topic here. I made a prediction, a podcast, maybe 2 podcasts ago, that Luke Walton was going to be fired in the next week and a half. A week and a half, I'd consider, 10, 11 days, something like that. I think we're 2 down already, so he's got 9 days left.
Yep.
Watching the post-game press conference by Tyrese Haliburton, you could tell the guy loves Luke Walton, but it sounded like a funeral, man. Like, he was like, it's not his fault. It's not his fault. And I heard multiple people over and over, it's not his fault. The players need to do this. The players. I heard chants during the game. I heard chants after the game. The fans are not happy with Luke Walton. It is very, very clear.
Yeah.
If you want Luke Walton to be fired, make sure you guys hit that like button down below. I want to know how many of you want Luke Walton to be fired. And then, Cal, I want to hear your take on this whole situation.
So I got to think of how I want to say this. From an outside perspective, Look, we've already been blunt on this show that I follow Chicago teams because I used to live there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take it a little off
That's your
tangent.
East Coast team.
Yes,
we'll give you that.
And my East Coast team. So I'm going to take it off on a little tangent here. My baseball team is the Chicago Cubs. Mm-hmm. Anybody who follows baseball knows how many years the Cubs had to endure losing. The reason that they didn't ever become a relevant team is because the fans were so supportive of that team. They would always sell out the stadium, no matter how bad they were. They would show up, they would cheer, all this stuff. And so the front office never thought or felt like they had to put any effort into making the team better, because why would they?
They're still making money. Exactly. The almighty dollar.
You can totally take a parallel to that, to the Sacramento Kings organization. 15 years, no playoffs. They still have a diehard fan base. Mm-hmm. Everybody shows up to the games. They cheer, all this stuff. Now, I'm not saying that Monty McNair doesn't have the attitude of, we need to fix this or we need to turn things around.
Yeah, yeah.
But taking it back to Luke Walton, the players might love him. He might be a good coach.
Yeah.
But as the pressure builds and mounts and the fan base continues to say things like this, we got to get rid of this guy. We need to make a change. At some point, it just has to happen. Even if it doesn't ultimately.
I thought you were going on
success.
a crazy tangent there, and you were going to tell us we should start boycotting games and not supporting the team.
Dead serious. That's what Cubs fans had to do in order for them to then go out and get a guy like Theo Epstein to run the team, who actually took things seriously, and he built together a winning team, and they eventually won the World Series. I'm not saying boycott games. That's not what I'm saying. But it feels kind of similar at this point.
Yeah. Many of you guys know I don't like Luke Walton, and has nothing to do with his time in Sacramento. That is simply because he is a Laker, and I hate the Lakers. I'll just leave it with that. But
Laker player and Laker coach.
But I'm hearing people talking about trading De'Aaron Fox, and that could be a potential option down the line. Like, he's a valuable player, people want him, he's a trade piece. As a GM on a basketball team, your job is not to make people like you. Your job is not to
definitely
everybody hold hands, we need to play together. And it's not like the movies, man. Your job is to take the assets that you have. They're not players, they're not people. They are, but you're conditioned to treat them as chips. If you're good at
your job, unfortunately, that's not the way that you look at it.
Yes, you treat them as chips, as assets, and your goal is to trade however many chips you can to get better ones in return.
Right.
And each draft, each offseason is a chance to add another chip, and then you figure out what you're doing with your chips, and you switch them out, whatever. So that is definitely a possibility. Trading De'Aaron Fox is a possibility. I like De'Aaron Fox. I wanted the Kings to draft him. I'm happy that he's on this team. I love that he loves Sacramento, all that stuff. But I guess what I'm saying here is, before I'm trading De'Aaron Fox, I'm firing Luke Walton.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you follow like a flow chart, that is the next stop.
Well, in my opinion, that is the biggest problem that the Kings have right now, because you have a coach who's been there for a few years now, and he hasn't gotten the job done. In professional sports, the head coach is usually the first person to go, right?
Yep.
That might not ultimately be the Kings' problem, though, unfortunately. It might be the makeup of their team.
Yep.
Now, you can argue that the head coach is supposed to figure out the best way to play with the makeup of the team, which is, again, one of the reasons why the head coach is the first person to go. The Kings are in this huge limbo thing, though, where it might not actually be their biggest problem, as much as we all think it is.
So that just makes me want to ask you, we all like the Kings team on paper.
Yeah.
We thought they're a really deep team. We thought they're a very versatile team. They haven't had a lot of injuries. They've had they started out with a tough schedule, but, recently it's been pretty balanced. This next 8 games is going to be very, very tough on the Kings. But up to this point, you could probably take their schedule and say, oh, it's probably middle of the road in the NBA. I think we're about, 20% of the season now. They've been healthy other than, Tyrese missing 2 games.
They have.
What is wrong with this team? What is the biggest need?
Well, unfortunately, right now it's everything. Yeah, I mean, it really is. Luke Walton he was very adamant before the season started about I like our guard-heavy team. I'm going to play small. Yeah. I have a million different rotations that I can throw out there. And he might have gotten a little too trigger happy with that, in that he thought, okay, we heard him say it. I've got 11 to 12 guys that I'm comfortable playing every night, but I'm only going to play 8 or 9. Mm-hmm. And we saw that very early on with Tristan Thompson's only going to play sometimes. Alex Len's only going to play sometimes. Terence Davis seems to have a very short leash. Yep. Mo Harkless was left out there for a while, even though he really wasn't producing, because we all thought, okay, this guy is, the defensive forward wing person that we need. He's versatile. We can throw him on guards. We can throw him on wings. It's just a mess right now. And the Kings they're not helping themselves, either the coaching staff or the players, because when you shoot 9 for 37 from 3, and that's the game plan, like, let's go out there and get threes up, it looks bad on Luke Walton, but it's the players that aren't hitting those threes. So it's a combination of things that is ailing them right now, and that's the reason that they're losing. Also, Harrison Barnes, when they were early on the season, when they were not just winning games, but in every game competing, you felt like every game they played, they had a chance to win. He was putting up great numbers. Yep. He was shooting over 50% from 3.
Yep.
And he's not doing that anymore. Yep. He's also not attempting the same number of threes. And I'm not really sure what the reason is for that specifically. But I've said it before, De'Aaron Fox, we all think is the best player on this team and needs to be the all-star and the man on this team. To me, Harrison Barnes is the most important player on this team. If he doesn't play well, the Kings have a huge mountain to climb every night.
Yeah. Harrison Barnes started out really hot last year as well.
He did.
And so did the Sacramento Kings. It worries me in the fact that Harrison Barnes, as well as he's played, maybe he was playing above his ability and he regressed to the mean. If Harrison Barnes had been playing his career averages or career numbers, this Kings team could be a 1 or 2 win team at this point. Like, they really could be. The games that they won, maybe they overachieved. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm just saying, looking at the numbers, Harrison Barnes played incredible basketball to start the season. And if he didn't do that, this Kings team would be without a few wins. And they don't have many wins at this point so far. I see here in the chat, Dylan, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being active. He says effort. And I think that's right. I think that's one thing that they really didn't have, especially tonight in a few of these games where they seem to get blown out, was the effort wasn't there. You look at effort, you look at players, effort seems to be a coaching issue to me. It really does.
100%.
And players
100%.
need to make shots. That's a very true statement.
Yeah.
Tyrese Haliburton said after the game, it's not the coaches, it's the players. We didn't come out with energy. We didn't come out, we didn't make shots. We simply didn't make the plays. We didn't execute. But effort is a coaching thing. I just believe it to be a coaching issue. And maybe this Kings team needs a coach that's not a motivator. And I know you're going to hate I say that because we talked about it before and you're like, Luke Walton's not a motivator. Well, maybe he's not a vocal motivator, but maybe he's in that class of it's going to be okay. maybe he's the type of coach that's just kind of coddling the players. It's going to be okay, guys. We need to stick together. We need to work together. You know, everything's going to be okay. You had a bad game. It's fine. You're a good player. You're going to get better. It's okay. So maybe this team needs a coach that they're afraid of. Maybe this Kings team needs a coach where if they come out on a night like tonight, they know that they're getting cussed out at halftime. They know that they're getting cussed out after the game. They know that they're not leaving after the game and going home. They know that they're having another practice after the game. They know that they're running laps tomorrow. They're doing sprints. They're in the gym. You know, like I don't want to say names because, you know, the guy that represents this the most to me that's in the league right now is not available, and that's Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah.
But maybe they need a coach that they're afraid of at this point.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. I mean, the counter argument to that, and this is a perfect transition into Tristan Thompson with what he said the other night. The day I need a coach to motivate me is the day I retire.
Yep.
These guys are all pros. They make millions of dollars, pretty much every single one.
Jim
They
Boylan.
shouldn't. Effort comes from within. Ultimately, you can have a coach that brings more drive and brings more effort out of you, and that to me is part of the equation that makes a great coach. But at the end of the day, you got to have some accountability for yourself. You know, effort. You can't coach effort. You can try, and coaches try all the time on every level: high school, college, NBA. But the higher up you get, the less an outside person can influence on the effort that you give.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we talk about Davion Mitchell give him such high praise, right? Because he, from day one, brings that effort every single night. Yep. Even when his shot isn't falling, he said it. I can affect the game on defense, and that is effort. So it goes both ways. It really does.
Yeah, I think you had a good point earlier talking about how, you know, Luke Walton said he had a lot of good players on this roster, and this team was really deep, but he was going to play such a short rotation. And you and I talked about that to start the season. Maybe that was part of their success. Maybe that got them so tired early on. But I feel like when you have an older veteran team, you have guys that are like, okay, I'm not going to play for 10 games or 5 games, and I'm going to be ready to go back out there because I know when my number's called, I'm going to be ready. But when you have a younger team like this, like, guys are sensitive. Guys are trying to take care of their families. They're trying to get their next contract. You know, they're malleable.
Yeah.
Maybe not playing some of these guys like a Marvin Bagley, you know, really hurts the chemistry on this entire team. Maybe he alienated some of these guys early on in the season. And then when you just take a guy like, okay, you know, Mo Harkless is our guy. We're sticking with Mo. And then all of a sudden Mo's out of the lineup.
Yeah.
Doesn't even get any minutes. We don't hear anything about him at all. If I'm a player and I look at that, I'm like, wow. So this guy had so much confidence in me one week, and the next week I'm out. I don't even get a single minute on this team. It feels like no loyalty to me. So why am I going to give the effort that I can? Why am I going to play my heart out for this guy when there doesn't seem to be communication between teammates, between coaching staff and players, and he's alienating guys by just simply benching them? I think you can do that with a veteran team, but not with such a young team.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. Definitely. And it kind of contradicts the statement that we were making earlier, to where all these guys, or we've heard a lot of these players say they love Luke Walton, they love playing for him, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not true for the whole roster. I don't know.
I've had people that I've worked with in the past that I loved, and they were great people, great friends, but that doesn't mean that working together is a good thing. Maybe these players like Luke Walton, maybe they, respect him. They want to be his friend. They want to make him happy, but maybe that's not the mentor they need or the coach they need. It's like being a parent and being best friends with your child, Some people say that's good. Some people say that's bad. It depends on the personality, I guess, of the parent and the child. But, sometimes you need that good cop, bad cop. Can't all be good cop.
Yeah.
Can't all be good cop.
Yes. I'm going to go on another tangent here.
That's okay. We love tangents.
When I played in high school, and anybody out there who went to Davis High in the last 20 years maybe knows who the basketball coach is there. Coach Gonzalez, Dan Gonzalez, math teacher at DHS. Great teacher, great guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to throw him under the bus here, but he wasn't my favorite coach. My favorite coach that I've ever had was an assistant coach, Greg Souza. That guy, when you got subbed out of the game and you knew you made a mistake, you turned the ball over, you didn't box out, you didn't run the floor, you didn't run the play correctly, he didn't have to say anything to me. He just looked at me, and I knew that I fucked up.
Yep.
That is a good coach. I don't know if Luke Walton does that.
What were you thinking when Coach G was looking at you?
The NBA and high school is so different. I'm not trying to make a lot of comparisons there, but I do think for a young, like you said, this is a young team. Maybe they need somebody to really light a fire under their asses.
Yep.
And I don't see that from Luke Walton. Yeah, he gets upset. He argues with the officials. He probably gets into it.
What was that difference for you? Like if Coach G looked at you, what did you get from that? Like what was the difference?
The difference was, this might sound like a little hubris or something, but the difference for me was when I just trusted that Coach Souza knew basketball. He knew what he was talking about. He didn't have to demonstrate anything for me. He didn't have to give me a rah-rah speech or anything like that. He just understood what was happening, and he could tell you that in 3 words.
Mm-hmm.
When Coach G would look at you wrong or say something to you, it just felt out of place to me. It felt awkward. Okay. It felt like he didn't see the play the right way. And so that, unfortunately, lessened my respect for him as a coach. I'm not saying that is the case with Luke Walton. These guys probably respect his opinion and all that stuff, but
you need a more veteran coach.
You need a more veteran coach, or you need a coach who. It's the same thing at work, when you show up to work and you got a boss. I've worked in restaurants for a long time.
Yep.
So restaurants is a little bit different than a lot of other jobs. It's very chaotic, frantic pace, all that stuff. But you have bosses when you come into work at a restaurant who are very like laissez-faire, and they just like let everything happen, and the shit hits the fan, and it's whatever. And then you have other bosses when you come into work, and they don't have to say anything to you. All they do is walk into the room or the area that you're in, and you stiffen up. And you're like, oh, I better be on my P's and Q's right now.
Yep. Command it. Yep. That's what the Kings need.
That's what the Kings need.
Yeah. I think they need a veteran coach. I hate that I'm even saying this right now, but they need a George Karl. They need a younger George Karl that players like but respect, and they need someone to keep them on their game, and they need someone that's actually has some winning experience in the NBA. Like, Luke Walton played on a lot of good teams. He didn't play a lot of minutes on those teams. He was assistant coach on a really, really, really good team.
He has winning experience.
But not as a head coach.
Right.
Yeah. And that's that's the thing is when you get in these situations, you need a guy that's like, I was coaching 20 years ago and we were down 10 and this is how it happened and we come back to make the playoffs that season. And you know what I mean? Like that's what they need is they need a guy. But tonight, Kings didn't do it. 29 points. The biggest beating I've seen in 17 years since the Malice at the Palace, which was 17 years ago tonight, Calvin.
Was it really?
It was.
Wow. I still remember watching that on live television.
That was wild. And then Ron Artest comes to the Kings afterwards.
Yeah.
That was exciting. I love that. Yeah, so it was a very disappointing loss tonight. Raptors were on a back-to-back. They got beat by the Jazz last night. They were actually up in that game, and the Jazz went on a huge run to close it out, beat them. We're playing the Jazz tomorrow night. Sucks to be a Kings fan right now. It really does. It's funny. I'm looking at my notes from the game, and like you could tell exactly like right at the end of the second quarter. I'm like, I love the aggressiveness from Fox and Tyrese. Bagley checks in. He's playing with Tristan Thompson. Really cool. You know, all of a sudden, Raptors 17-1 run.
Yeah.
And then Raptors 63-45 at halftime. And then all negative notes after that because I was just angry.
Yeah, Tristan Thompson, really interesting. I mean, I know he only played 9 minutes, but this is a guy that we have come to expect no matter how many minutes he plays, he's going to have some impact on the game, right?
Yep.
Look at this box score. 9 minutes, 0 field goal attempts, 0 rebounds, 1 steal. Or I'm sorry. Where am I here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know. It looks like you're looking at the wrong one because you're like
trying to find something else, but it's like
1 steal, 2 fouls, 9 minutes.
It.
And this is the guy that was the most vocal after the last loss against the Timberwolves. He said, quote unquote, I don't need no fucking coach to inspire me. And he went off
on. I need a coach to inspire me is the day I retire.
And he went off on all this stuff. I figured the Kings were going to win this game tonight. I really did. But it's okay, guys. We're still here. We're still talking about the Kings. Make sure you guys hit that like button down below if you're a Kings fan. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you'd like to join the Royal family with Calvin and I. If you're new to the channel, welcome to Royal Rebounds TV. This is the Royal Rebounds Podcast live. We do it live pretty much after every single game. Sometimes we do pregame, but it's mostly postgame. We also have a ESPN-style show that debuts every Friday called The Royal Report. It's only here on YouTube. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and hit that notification cowbell down below if you'd like to find out when Calvin and I put out a new video. All right, Cal. So talked about the shitty performance. I think I'm done talking about tonight. You know, I heard fans booing the team.
Yeah.
I heard them talking about Walton, all this stuff. So I want to move on here and get a little bit more positive. And that positive for me as a Kings fan is looking towards trades. It always has been, right? You go on these losing streaks and you say, hey, who can we trade for? Who can we add? How can we fix this team? So I saw 2 trade offers this week that I want to talk about. But before we do that, there's a couple guys that I think would be interesting adds. One of them we saw this last week in a loss to the Spurs, Thaddeus Young. He's a little bit older. Mm-hmm. And he was drafted in like 07. He's about 32, 33 now. He's having a decent season. He's averaging 8 points a game. He's shooting the ball 7, 8 times a night. Do you think he could be the answer for this team at the 4 position? Do you think he's worth going after? What do you think he could bring to the Kings?
I think he could bring a lot. There's a reason why he's lasted this long in the league. He does a lot of good things. He's played on a lot of different types of teams. He's been on winning teams, losing teams, young teams, old teams, all of it. Do I think he's the answer at the 4? No, I do not. But I would love to have him as the first guy off the bench at the 4.
Yeah.
I would still start Metu.
I think one thing that you and I both talked about what we wanted from this 4 position was we wanted rebounding, we wanted defense, and we wanted somebody that was going to score very, very efficiently. Thaddeus Young is shooting this year. He's almost 60% from the field goal range, which is a career high for him.
Yeah.
He's giving you some boards. He's giving you some points. He's a pretty solid player. He's a veteran. I think he'd be a great addition to this team, and I don't think it would take a lot to get him. I think if you looked at last year's team, one of the biggest things that stood out to me late in the season was Monty added guys to help address small needs in this team, and he did it on the cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And all the moves he made, I really liked, but I think Thaddeus Young would be a good option if they choose to build and not tear down.
Yeah, buyers, not sellers, right? I mean, you have to sell a little bit. He's never been a great outside shooter, so he does most of his damage close to the rim. He currently plays on a team that has a lot of really good outside shooters. I think it fits really well with him. And you could argue that the Kings are that same build, but then they have nights like this where they go 9 for 37. Maybe he could help in instances like that. I mean, I think Thaddeus Young is a very valuable role player. I believe that he is a good piece on any good team, even though he's played on some bad teams. Who are we giving up to get him?
I don't think it would take a lot. I think you can maybe give up a bench player and a second-round pick, something like that.
Yeah.
Another guy who's a, I guess, buy low candidate who I feel like could really help the Kings is Sergey Bako. One of my favorite nicknames in the NBA, the Surge Protector or Serge Ibaka. 2 awesome nicknames. He won a championship with Kawhi Leonard with the Raptors. We all know about him in Oklahoma City. He was chosen over James Harden.
He was.
Felt like it. He's underperformed since he's been with the Clippers.
Yeah, he had injury problems. He's getting older.
He had a back injury last year. He's working his way back. He's only played 2 games this season, like 7 minutes. Hasn't scored a point this year, but he seems to be getting stronger. He seems to be getting healthy. I feel like this is a guy that you could maybe do a straight-up Tristan Thompson for Serge Ibaka, maybe add a pick in there. How do you feel about Serge? What do you think he could bring to Sacramento?
I like Serge as a player. We talked about it actually on the Royal Report last year going into free agency, that this is a guy the Kings should target. Injury problems are injury problems. Maybe he is getting to the point now where it's starting to pile up on him and his production isn't going to be the same ever again. But he's another, just like Tristan Thompson. We praised Tristan Thompson when he came to this team because of his veteran leadership. He's got a championship pedigree. Serge Ibaka has all of those things as well.
Yep.
He can shoot from outside.
Yep.
Tristan Thompson can't. That's the difference between those two. I certainly wouldn't be upset to get a guy like Serge Ibaka on my team. I'll say that.
I have to say I would be very surprised if Tristan Thompson finished this year with Sacramento. And that's not anything bad about Tristan. I really like him. I like what he's brought to this Kings team. But he's an expiring contract. He makes a decent amount of money. He's probably deserves to go to a contender. He's the type of guy that contenders look to add late in the season. So, unfortunately, I don't think Tristan Thompson will be with this Kings team past the deadline. Unless they go on some miraculous winning streak, I think he will be moved or bought out.
Well, let's be honest. If the Kings keep losing, there's a bunch of players on this team that could not be on the roster past the trade deadline.
Yep. All right, so I want to go over 2 bigger deals that I saw this week. Dallas Mavericks, Sacramento Kings. Mavericks receive De'Aaron Fox, Tristan Thompson, Mo Harkless. We'll finally get to see that De'Aaron Fox, Luka Doncic pairing that Vlade Divac never wanted. Kings receive Kristaps Porzingis, Jalen Brunson, Josh Green, Willie Cauley-Stein, 2025 first-round pick. It's a lot of guys. Willie Cauley-Stein returns to Sacramento.
Yeah.
This is the Kings' second chance to trade De'Aaron Fox for Kristaps Porzingis after they declined the Knicks trade for him. The Kings could have had Doncic and Porzingis, which is pretty wild to think about. And they would have had Buddy and Harrison Barnes and some other people to surround that team, which would be pretty crazy. How do you feel about this deal?
I'm cautious about this deal. I think Kristaps Porzingis is a very unique talent. There's a lot of things that he does well over his career. I'm always nervous about a big guy who has injury problems and major injury problems, not just minor, but major. His production really hasn't been the same ever since he left New York. We've seen it in flashes.
Yep.
But again, he's been hurt. When he has been out there, he's been good sometimes, not good other times. And part of that could be it's just not the right fit in Dallas. But to me, if you're going to trade De'Aaron Fox, I need a surefire plug-and-play star in return for him. I'm not going to say Ben Simmons is that guy. But
we'll talk about that later.
Kristaps Porzingis, I would just be cautious about that. You're getting a lot in return, and you're filling out a lot of the roster. Willie Cauley-Stein, I think is a serviceable big man. He was in Sacramento. He's found a good role in Dallas.
Yep.
But to me, to trade De'Aaron Fox like that for a guy like Porzingis, I would just be a little cautious about that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm not advocating to trade De'Aaron Fox, just so you guys know. Not advocating to trade De'Aaron Fox. But there are a few things that I really do like about this deal. We talked about the 4 spot being a problem for this Kings roster.
Yeah.
I think bringing in Porzingis shores that up as long as he's healthy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd put him at the 5 and Holmes at the 4, maybe alternate them.
Well, we know he doesn't like to play the 5.
Yeah.
He would he's like Anthony Davis. He wants to be the 4 and be out there on the perimeter.
So we'll see how that works out. I like Jalen Brunson.
I love Jalen Brunson.
A lot of Kings fans after that Mavericks game were like Brunson, Jalen Brunson.
You got Davion Mitchell and him. How many minutes a night is
it's true.
Who starts?
You got Josh Green, forward. I like what I've seen out of him.
Young.
He's a decent prospect.
Yep.
I like Willie Cauley-Stein. I think he's good, would be a good backup center. Rebounding, defense, and I always like getting first-round picks, especially one a couple years down the line where the Mavericks won't even know if they'll be good by then.
True.
So I feel like if the Kings really, really are settled on the fact that Tyrese is going to be the future point guard, him and Fox don't play well together. If you were to put together a lineup of Tyrese Haliburton, Buddy Hield, or Harrison Barnes, Kristaps Porzingis, and Rashawn Holmes, and then off the bench you have Mitchell, Brunson, Green, Willie Cauley-Stein, throw one of those other guys in there, maybe Alex Len. I think that's a pretty solid team.
Yeah, I think there are like you said, there are a lot of things to like about that. It's just there's so much question mark with Porzingis for me. Just like Ben Simmons. That's, if Ben Simmons was playing this season and he was playing at the same, level that we've seen him play, despite the outside shooting, despite the free throw shooting, we know everything else that he's going to give you. Mm-hmm. I would feel a lot more confident about pulling the trigger on a trade for him.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd really worry about with this deal, other than losing Fox, is he makes $33 million next year.
It's a lot of money.
And then he makes 36 the next year, but it's a player option. Yeah. So this could be a 1-year rental if he's not happy in Sacramento. Yeah. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing for the Kings, paying him that much money. Maybe if he's injured, he's probably going to opt in.
It could be bad both ways.
Yeah, he's probably going to opt in if he's injured. It could be
bad if he walks. It could be bad if he opts in.
Looks like you guys are not liking KP, huh? I mean, he's not a fast-paced run and gun guy, but who knows if that's the style the Kings really need. Calvin and I are going to do a Sacramento Kings rebuild on 2K this weekend, and we'll pick a play style, and we'll try and build a team around it. Hope you guys can join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, so next trade offer, Cavaliers Kings. Some really unfortunate news came out of Cleveland today. Mm-hmm. Colin Sexton out for the season.
Yep.
Meniscus, which is weird. I feel like guys aren't really out the whole season with a meniscus.
It depends on how bad the tear is. You can have a partial tear. You can have a complete tear.
I think Ron Artest removed his. He was out for like 3 days, 4 days.
Exactly. That's the type of injury it is. Some guys bounce back really quickly. Some guys it takes a lot longer. We all wish Colin Sexton the best and hope he returns to the court soon.
So this is, I guess, Darius Garland will be taking over the point guard position in this trade. They'll be adding in Buddy Hield and Tristan Thompson. That's funny. TT back to Cleveland. Kings get Kevin Love, 2 second-round picks, both 2022, one from San Antonio, one from Houston. How do you feel about this deal?
Colin Sexton is in this deal.
No.
Oh, he's not?
He's out. This is Buddy Hield and Tristan Thompson for Kevin Love and 2 second-round picks.
I don't like that deal.
What do you not like about it?
Kevin Love's a great player. I think his time has come and passed. He's been hurt as well a lot like Tristan Thompson, brings veteran leadership, championship pedigree, all that stuff. He can space the floor, shoot from outside. I haven't seen Kevin Love play like what I think of as Kevin Love in a long time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that deal makes the Kings better.
I like his fit next to Rashawn Holmes. I like his rebounding, which is something the Sacramento Kings have really, really needed.
Yeah.
And just thinking about him throwing full court passes with the Kings on the fast break is pretty exciting to think about.
Yes, he does do that very well. Very well.
But he is getting older.
You can't count how many.
And yeah.
You can't count on him to play 60 games a year.
Yep, that's true. And that's what the Kings need. But even when the Kings are healthy, they're still losing games.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any guys, we're going to talk about Ben Simmons next, but before we move on to Ben Simmons, are there any guys that you want the Kings to target at this point? And if you guys have any that you want the Kings to target, let us know down in the chat. I see Bol in there. I'd love to have Bol.
Yeah, I think Bol is a great target. It's somebody who, he still hasn't achieved his potential. So it's, and I'm not, I don't really know what Denver's doing with him. I don't know what their plan is for him long term. I would have expected them to play him more regularly, like alongside Michael Porter Jr. Those two could have been. Jokic and Murray are also young, but those two could be the replacements to extend. You're always looking to try and build your franchise for 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it is. It seems to me like those two would have been the centerpieces around that. So I think Bol is a tremendous talent. I would love to have him. I think he's more obtainable from a trade standpoint than a lot of these guys we've been talking about, like Ben Simmons, like Pascal Siakam. So, yeah, I would love to at least have heard that the Kings have made an offer for him, something like that. I still think Pascal Siakam is a good guy to go out and try and get.
Yeah, Josh says the same thing.
I'm shocked to hear that the Raptors would even consider trading him, but that's what you hear out of them.
Yep. Ramon says
he
Christian
could be
Wood.
The perfect fit. We both love Christian Wood.
Yep.
I think Christian Wood would be a great guy to go get.
What do you think it would take to get a guy like Christian Wood?
It might be less than you think. I know they signed him to a big deal last year. They had big plans for him, but their roster has turned over so much in a very short amount of time. They've got all these young guys. They're similar to the Kings in that they have a lot of different ways they could go with their roster. Obviously, they like Jalen Green a lot, and they want to build around him. But they've also got Kenyon Martin Jr. and all these young players. So maybe Christian Wood is easier to go out and get than people think.
He's only got 1 year left on his deal after this year.
Yeah.
He's making like $14 million. He's averaging 16 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists right now. He's not shooting the best, 31% from three-point range, which is career low for him. I think he'd be a great addition on this team. And I think
agree.
this Rockets team is really looking for young talent and draft picks. We hear about them trying to get rid of John Wall. I think Christian Wood would be a great addition to this Kings team, but you might have to give up your first-round pick to get him.
You might.
I think I'd be okay with Marvin Bagley and a protected first-rounder for him. I think that'd be a fair deal for both teams.
Yeah, and if the Kings are going to make a major deal like this where they're getting a player, of the caliber of Christian Wood or something else like that, a first-round pick is probably going to be required. If you're a buyer, not a seller,
you're
going to have to be willing to give up something like that.
And everybody wants to give up future picks because they're like, we need another draft pick now to build off this team. But the problem with giving away future picks is it really handicaps your franchise in making future deals because you cannot trade consecutive picks. Yeah. So, let's say they're like, okay, we're going to trade for Christian Wood. We don't want to give up the 2022 pick. We're going to give them 2023. Mm-hmm. So then that means you can't trade the 2022 pick. That means you can't trade the 2023 pick because you already traded it. And that means you can't trade the 2024 pick either. So that's 3 years. Not a lot of teams are going to give you much for a 2025 first-round pick. Yeah. So unless you're getting a really, really high pick this year and you want to add the guy right now, giving up this year's pick is not a horrible idea. I see Kevin Knox in here, Obi Toppin, Nerlens Noel. I'm a huge fan of Nerlens. I loved him in college. I was bummed when he got injured. He's done really well in the NBA recently. I know he had a rough start.
He has, but the Kings have Nerlens Noel.
And they're not going to give up.
Tristan Thompson is the same player as Nerlens Noel.
The Knicks aren't going to give up Nerlens either. McCamey says trade for Lonzo, LaMelo, and Jello.
Yeah, there you go.
Make LeVar the head coach, right?
Just rename Golden One Center Big Baller Brand.
That's crazy. You guys are crazy. All right. Well, I think it's time to talk about Ben Simmons again. I hope you guys aren't tired of listening to Ben Simmons or about Ben Simmons because I am a little tired about talking about Ben Simmons. But it's okay. Just say it. Ben Simmons, Ben Simmons, Ben Simmons. We're going to talk about Ben Simmons. I noticed, I think it was yesterday morning, the Pistons, apparently they're interested in everybody now. They were talking about Marvin Bagley.
Or one of the worst teams in the league. You're interested in a lot of people.
They were talking about Marvin Bagley. Now they are engaged in trade talks with the Sixers for Ben Simmons, for Jeremy Grant. Might be a good deal for both teams. I read an article today talking about why the Sixers should consider lowering the asking price for Ben Simmons. And the conclusion was Tyrese Maxey's playing great.
Yes.
So if you have a guy that's ready to step into that point guard position, your team's playing well, you need to strike while the iron's hot. You need to add in guys.
Yeah, that's the difference.
You need to add in guys.
This is a team that has the ability to make it deep, a deep playoff run.
And you just can't waste Embiid's time. You really can't. Right. This guy is an incredible player. I know he's had some injuries in the past. Injuries are possible at any time for any player.
And we've seen him bounce back from those injuries.
Yep. But you need to strike while it's hot. You can't just say, oh, we got Embiid. It's like, how did that work out for the Cavs? We got LeBron James. We can add another guy next year. Yeah. It doesn't work like that. So I think every day the pressure builds on the Sixers. So this is a potential deal. I have to ask you, Cal, if you were to make it a three-way deal, who would you rather have? Ben Simmons or Jeremy Grant?
Oh, wow. Wow. That's tough right there, because those two guys are currently on such opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of what they're going to provide your team. Mm-hmm. Jeremy Grant is a decent defender. Don't get me wrong. He can guard a lot of different positions. We saw it in Oklahoma City when he had that great year. And he can really score. He can shoot. Ben Simmons is the total opposite of that.
Yep.
He's the guy who's going to be the floor general, run the fast break, distribute, play defense.
And this is probably going to be Ben Simmons' team.
Yeah.
If he gets traded to this team,
especially if it's for De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, it's probably his team. Probably is.
I really don't know which guy I would rather have. I'm still on the fence with Ben Simmons just because of how these last 6 months have gone. I haven't seen him play since the playoffs last year. And I've said it before, his intent to get himself out of Philadelphia, the things that he's doing as an outside person looking in, do not make me want to trade for him.
Lowell says, would you say Fox is a better player than Pascal Siakam? Before Calvin answers, Calvin is a big Spicy P fan.
I am.
And this is not new. He's loved his game. I, for one, was very hesitant to crown Siakam. Early on, I felt like all he had was a spin move. I called him spin move Siakam. He did it over and over again, and it pissed me off because I knew he was doing a spin move, and they still couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
I find it hard to compare those two players. They're just so different in what they do. Pascal has, I think, improved his game more rapidly than De'Aaron Fox has.
Mm-hmm.
But they're such different players. It's hard to compare a forward and a guard.
Yep.
In my opinion, they're both all-star caliber players, meaning that if they play to their true potential, they are all-star level talents. But they provide such different things for you on a team. The Kings have a really big hole at power forward, though. And this guy's a legit power forward in this league.
And the Kings have a lot of guards. Yeah, it is really tough to compare a lot of these guys. Calvin and I sometimes, we get into debates about best players of all time, trying to compare these guys. It's tough to compare one position from different decades, but then trying to compare players that play different positions is even harder. And then you got guys that are the same position. I was in a debate with somebody, I think it was like yesterday, about Magic Johnson versus Steph Curry. And you talk about guys that do different things.
Very different.
These guys are the same position. They play in completely different eras, different games, different sizes. Trying to compare these guys is really, really tough. So, Lowell, that was a good question. They really bring different things. If you were to phrase it in a different way, like maybe which player would be more important for the Kings right now, I think Calvin had a good answer. They have a hole at the 4. We love De'Aaron Fox. We want him to be on this team. However, they have a ton of point guards. They don't have many players that can play the 4 right now.
They don't.
And Pascal Siakam, as good as he played tonight, is probably a guy that you could get for less than his value. I don't know if that's true for Ben Simmons.
No, not if Daryl Morey is his GM. You're not going to get less than his value.
He says Siakam is an all-NBA level talent. I mean, honestly, he was second team all-NBA like 2 years back. So I'm going to say Siakam if we're talking about peak. Thoughts?
So, okay. For me, when you talk about a pure basketball player, a pure basketball talent, meaning everything that they do on the court, how good they are at it, all that stuff, if you wipe away positions, guards are better basketball players than big men in terms of everything that they can do on the court.
Yep.
De'Aaron Fox is 24 years old, so that alone leads me to say that his potential is higher than a guy like Pascal Siakam. Doesn't mean that you can't have these generational players, Tim Duncan, Shaq, all that stuff. But let's be honest, Shaq's basketball talent compared to any guard in the league right now, not even close.
And Shaq's not doing much if you're down 3 with 5 seconds left.
No, I'm not saying Pascal Siakam and Shaq is not a good comparison. But I'll just say in terms of true potential, true basketball ability, true talent, guards always win out.
Yep.
They just have better, they're smaller, they're quicker, they're more agile, they're better shooters, generally speaking. They always win out in terms of talent or potential talent. Is De'Aaron Fox going to reach that potential talent? I don't know.
Yeah, it's really tough to say. But yeah, size is very important in basketball.
It is very important.
When you're a smaller
and a big
guy
man that can shoot is very important in today's game.
But when you're a smaller guy, and not that De'Aaron Fox is really small, but when you play around guys that are bigger than you, you have to be better.
Yes.
You just have to, because otherwise they're going to dominate you. I think that's one of the things that's so amazing about Anthony Davis is that the dude was a guard and had all the skills, and then he had that growth spurt really late. So he's got all the talent of a guard in a forward's body.
Right. And to the point of Pascal Siakam is an all-NBA talent, yes, he is. But De'Aaron Fox is an all-NBA talent as well. I mean, I've said it before, but we all, we've seen the games. De'Aaron Fox is not playing to his ability or his potential right now. But coming into this season, coming off of a 25-point per game average last year, most people would have put him in the top 10 point guards in this league. You can go down that list. Name one guy on that list that's not an NBA, all NBA talent.
Yeah.
There isn't any.
Trade Fox and Buddy for Ben Simmons. I don't know if it's going to take that much to get him, honestly. If you're throwing Buddy in there too, you're going to have to match salary. You're probably going to have to send somebody back like a Seth Curry or somebody, but I don't see
I wouldn't want to give up both of them for Ben Simmons, that's for sure. I'd be okay with Buddy Hield and Marvin Bagley for Ben Simmons. I'd be okay with Buddy Hield and, one or two other guys, maybe not named Harrison Barnes. But De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield for Ben Simmons, that's a lot to give up. That's a lot of offense to give up for a guy who doesn't bring a ton of offense back.
Yep. And like I said earlier in the show, I'm firing a coach before I'm trading any of these guys.
I agree with
just
that.
Because I feel like a coach is a much different situation. He's been here for 3 years. Yes, that's important. But you only get a limited shot at getting players. And so before I'm trading a guy like De'Aaron Fox, who has all-star potential, who we've seen in spurts play like a guy that looks like he could win an MVP. Not saying that he's going to win an MVP or anything like that, but when we see him at his best, if he could sustain that and do that all the time, that's an MVP caliber player. But he doesn't do that. I don't know if that's coaching or if that's him. I don't know if he's ever going to reach his full potential with this team, but it's much easier to replace a coach than a star player.
Oh, 100%.
Especially a losing
100%.
coach. So I'm doing any of that first. But guys, it's really not looking good for us. Let's take a look here at the next, couple games. Kings have 3 more games at home, which is good. However, they've only won, they're like 2-5 at home this season, which is not good. Yep. They play the Jazz tomorrow night. The Jazz just had a night off. They're not on a back-to-back like the Kings. They just got done beating the Raptors, who we lost to tonight.
Yep.
And they're playing great. I don't know how the Kings are going to stop Rudy Gobert in this game. I really don't. Then we have the Sixers game. I want you guys to circle that on your calendar because if a Ben Simmons trade happens, I feel like when teams trade, it's usually when they're like right about to play each other or right after, like the GMs are all together. And
talking to each other.
Maybe they have a meetup or something before or after because they have busy schedules. So we could see a potential trade around that time. Not saying it's going to happen, but it is possible. But that is a tough team to beat.
They are.
Then you got the Blazers. They got everything to prove this year. They're trying to keep their own star in Damian Lillard. Their team is probably more talented than this Kings team. They're definitely playing better than this Kings team is. You got the Lakers, the Grizzlies, the Lakers again, and then 2 games against the Clippers. These are all tough games, Calvin. I don't see any of these games that I would say is a win. They're all winnable games. But I'm not putting a W next to any of these games right now.
How could you with the way the Kings are playing right now? There's no way you could expect them to come out and play well enough to win right now. Against the competition they've played over the last week and a half and the way they've played, they're capable, don't get me wrong. But to expect that, no way.
Yeah, Solo, I see your frustration in the chat, man. I totally agree with you. I don't think Vlade did it on purpose. It's just, what happens when you hire guys that aren't up at the level of all the other guys in the league, they get taken advantage of. And I think that's exactly what happened to Vlade. However, I'm happy about the Hield and the Barnes contract, both front-loaded. They decrease every year. I think he did a good move with that. But unfortunately, he just didn't really set us up well for success. But that's okay. We got to move on. It's like we're a good shooter. We just missed 10 in a row. Got to keep shooting. Happy with Monty.
15 in a row.
I like the stat or the staff that he brought in. He's hit on both these past draft picks. I don't think he's made a bad deal at this point. He hasn't made a ton of deals, but I don't think he's made a bad deal. So being patient, sitting back, being patient, waiting for the right deal is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Being patient is not a bad thing. If this Kings team goes on a horrific losing streak, it's not a horrible thing. It really isn't. Before the game started, you and I were talking about one of the main problems with this Kings team is that they've never been really good or really bad. They've just kind of been in the middle. They don't get good draft picks. You don't get top-level talent. I understand that talent can be had later in the draft. You look at a team like the Pacers, who we talked about in the last podcast, never had a first overall pick ever play for that team, which is wild. And they've hit on drafts with Danny Granger, George Hill, Paul George, stuff like that. The Kings have constantly had 5, 6, 7, 8 to 13 draft position. They haven't had a good shot. Other than that one Marvin Bagley chance that was blown. But they're getting better at drafting players. If the Kings do bad this season and they end up with a high draft pick, I'm pretty confident they're going to hit in this draft.
Yeah, it's a year-to-year thing, right? I mean, not every draft is as deep as previous years, all that stuff. It's tough. Evaluating talent and projecting out how well they're going to do for the rest of their career, that's almost an impossible job. I mean, everybody points to Giannis, Kawhi, Manu Ginobili, Jokic, who won an MVP as a second-round draft pick.
Yep. Gary Trent Jr.
Let's be honest, the Nuggets just got lucky.
Yeah.
Yes, they've trusted in that pick. They felt like it was the right pick. Did they think he was going to be an MVP?
Probably not.
Probably not. So it's just so hard. Even if you're in the lottery year after year after year. Charlotte, been in the lottery year after year after year. Never did anything good or hasn't gotten any better. Then they draft somebody like LaMelo.
They hit the lottery.
That's all it takes. Even the Bulls.
Yep.
They drafted Jordan, who people passed on.
Yep.
You just get lucky. That's what it is.
Yeah. So I got to bring up the positives that I brought up last week too. No bad contracts on this team. They have all their draft picks. The front office all seems to be on the same page. Good things to build off of. They're building a foundation. You're not going to build a house in one day. You got to start somewhere. The Kings were in rough shape. We haven't made the playoffs in 15 years. Going on 16 now. So losses at this point are not horrible. But I'm interested to see what this Kings team's going to do, because you can't be towards the middle or end of the middle of the pack anymore. You got to be good or you got to be bad in today's NBA, or you got to get lucky. And the Kings haven't been either of those.
They have not. And I think at this point it's safe to say it's just not working. So whether it's a change at coach or it's a trade involving one or multiple players, something to shake up the roster, whether that proves to be the right move for this season or next season or the year after that, what's the definition of insanity?
Yep. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yes.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, Ryan, we're all talking about it. 12 games in. We're about 20% of the way through the season. And the Kings are not playing good, man. They really are not. Something needs to change. You could hear Katie after the game saying something needs to change.
Yeah.
A lot of people with the Kings franchise are saying something needs to change. It's just, what is that thing? I think Luke Walton's going to be that first thing. I really do. I don't know if it's good or bad.
That's usually the way it goes.
But,
the head coach, whether it's right or wrong, they're the person that it's the most cliche thing in the world, right? When the team plays bad, head coach comes out for a press conference and says, put it all on me, whether it's right or wrong, that's just the way it goes in professional sports. So it is what it is.
Yep, Ryan, being a Kings fan is insanity. It really is. But that's okay, guys. I was telling our producer, Vinny, today, every year it's going to get sweeter. When we make the playoffs, it's going to be so sweet. It really is. And he's like, 15 years, isn't that sweet enough? And I'm like, it is, but still, like, I feel it. It's going to be sweeter. I know it. We're going to make it. We really will make it there. It's going to happen. We're going to take a few losses, another good draft pick. We're going to trade some guys. I'm confident in this front office. We are going to have a good team soon. I'm tired of losing games, but I'm willing to do it temporarily to, lose the battle but win the war.
Win the war
is what I'm trying to do. If it's your first time to this channel, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button to join the royal family with Calvin and I. If you're a Kings fan, if you're a true Kings fan, make sure you guys hit that like button down below. I only see 19 likes down there. Are you sure? I feel like more of you guys are Kings fans. So make sure you hit that like button. If you're watching on your phone, you just need to exit out of the chat and you'll see the like button there. Same if you're watching it on your TV. All right, Cal, let's move on. I know we talked about the upcoming schedule, but tomorrow night
we're on to Utah.
Do have a game. It's against the Jazz. Calvin and I will be going live after the game to talk about, win, loss, trades, Coach Walton getting fired, all sorts of fun stuff. We hope you all join us for that. But Cal, I want to talk about your keys to that game.
The Jazz are one of the best teams in the league, but it's very simple as to why they're that good. They rebound and they shoot very well from three. That's what they do.
Yep.
So definitely the first two keys to this game are crash the boards, box out. I mean, they have to control the offensive glass. Rudy Gobert is an animal. Richaun Holmes is going to have his hands full all night, and it's going to be a team effort. It won't just be him boxing out on every play. I think we'll see Alex Len, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And then, two, they have to guard the three. That's what this team wants to do. They want to spread it out. Jordan Clark's, every player on their team, not named Rudy Gobert, chucks it from three, and they shoot it, for the most part, really well. They were one of the best three-point shooting teams all year last year. They got off to a slow start this year, but they've got such good shooters and smart players. And then lastly, they have to stay out of foul trouble. They just have to. Rudy Gobert is a guy that's going to command the interior of the paint. Richaun Holmes is a guy who really hasn't played well lately, but we've seen him play well in games like this where he knows he's going to have to bring his A game against a guy like Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year. He has got to stay out of foul trouble.
Yep.
Because, I mean, Alex Len, we've seen him been able to come in short spurts and provide, the lift that they need, play well. But him and Tristan Thompson, while we know we can count on them for good minutes, Richaun Holmes has got to be the guy. He's got to be the guy. I mean.
Yep. I ain't got to see way more out of Richaun Holmes.
He really has dropped off a lot over these past few games. So for me, it's very simple. It's rebound, it's guard the three, and it's defend without fouling.
All right. Well, we will see if the Kings can do that. I hope to see another big game out of Davion Mitchell. I love to see him guarding Donovan Mitchell last time. I know the Jazz are a good team. The Kings lost to them twice already, but
they played them tough both times.
Kings played great in those games, and they had a chance to win late. So the ball bouncing their way could lead to a victory for the Kings, but we don't know at this point. Any victory is a good victory, so we will see. But I want to thank you all again for watching us on this Royal Rebounds Podcast live with Calvin and Barry. Make sure you guys smash up the like, subscribe to the channel. We will catch you all after the Jazz game tomorrow night. And in the meantime, go Kings.